Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Selection Committee and the Canadian Motorcycle Hall of Fame, I'd like to thank you very much for this wonderful award. It's definitely the crowning achievement of a lifetime for me. Much of what I was going to say tonight has already been said in the introduction there on screen. It was 1965, and I had a bass guitar, and I wanted to play in a band. And it got to a point where my dad thought this might be something that might happen, and he didn't like that. So I came home one night, and the bass guitar was gone. And he said, I don't like the direction that you're going with this. And but he said, to keep you happy, you know those little scooters you see going around, those little red Hondas? He said, I'll co-sign for you if you want to buy one of those. So down we went to the motorcycle shop, and wouldn't it come out with the biggest motorcycle that Honda made at the time, 305 Honda Super Hawk. Well, it wasn't long after that. I was riding around by myself, just having a wonderful time, and I didn't know anybody else who rode a motorcycle. But within a month or so, I met a few guys at the A&W one night, and they were in the corner, and I was a little frightened because all I knew about motorcycles is that they were bad. And the one fellow came over and invited me to join them. So I timidly went over. You see, I'd gone to a Christian school, and this was a whole different way of life for me. And they're telling me about the ride they had that day out in the country, and they're dropping their bikes so they wouldn't run over somebody else. And they said, why don't you come out and join us? I said, yeah, sure. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, I was out with them. And wouldn't you know it, I won. And winning is contagious. And before the day was out, they took a hat around and they took up a collection. And the fastest guy up to that point had been this fellow, Ken Taylor. And they said, we're going to have a race, just you and him. And I won. So the next week I went back. And I kind of like this. This is fun winning. And they started telling me about the CMA, and I should be racing, and get a proper bike. And, well, there was one big problem. Money. But we overcame that, as you heard. Ray Whitaker and I went up to the Midas muffler shop, got some old roughly tailpipes, took the mufflers off the 305 Honda, and took the air cleaners off, too. And in the race in Whitby, there was every lap you crossed the creek twice. By the time I went across the creek the second time, the throttles were stuck wide open. So I rode the whole race just using the brakes. With a Honda 305, there wasn't a real horsepower problem there, so I ended up finish sucking. Anyway, as time went on, I had some more successes, and I forget what the year was, but I think it was 1968. I was riding the Mako, as was said, and I was having problems with it. And finally, I just said, that's it. I'm out of this. I'm not going to race anymore. And I didn't have enough money to continue on. And Monday morning after the race was over on Sunday, George came into the parking lot at the motorcycle shop and said, how'd you like to ride my Greaves Challenger for the rest of the year? Well, okay. And that year, I raced the whole season, and I think it was near the final race of the year, and we went up to Chicoutimi, Quebec. There was some kind of an attraction up there. I don't know. There were an inordinate number of girls for guys, and it seemed to me that every Ontario rider managed to at least make it to Chicoutimi. And they had the race in the parking lot at the arena, and I won my first expert championship, or not championship, but expert race. And from then on, things began to go quite well. And 1968, in the winter of 1968, I knew there was a vacancy on the CZ team because Yvon had gone road racing. And I called up George Davis in Montreal, and I said, George, I'd like to get a new CZ for next year to race. And he said, well, I think I can manage that. We can get you a good price. I said, no, George. I said, I want one for free. Oh, I'll have to get back to you. Well, he called me right back and he said, you got a new bike, a 360 for next year. I said, I'll be down tomorrow to pick it up. And I went down with the old Buick and picked it up on the racks on the back bumper. And when I was leaving, I said to George, I said, oh, by the way, I'm going to California with your bike. What? And if you knew George Javis, you'd know how he said that. Anyway, off we went to California, and when I came back from California, everything turned around for me, and it was just winning all the time. Eventually, Trev Dealey offered me a couple of new bikes from Yamaha. They were just getting in the sport, and the bikes turned out to be really great, and had a wonderful time. But when the energy crunch came in 1973, things changed a bit. I was too old to go to Europe. I ended up being big fish in a little pond. Going to Europe would have been a little fish in a big pond. And I thought, better to stop at this point and move on to something else. And as I said, this evening's presentation is definitely the crowning point in my racing career. People I'd like to thank: George Davis, my mentor, my friend, and in many ways a father to me. God bless you, George. You'll always remember fondly by my family and I. George Kirkpatrick, without whose timely sponsorship I wouldn't even be here tonight. Ray Whitaker, whom you don't know, he's probably deceased by now, who helped me scrounge things together to try and make a 305 Honda Superhawk a motocross bike. Trev Dealey, who provided me with the racing bikes to dominate the Canadian scene in 72 and 73. And the Oshawa Competition Motorcycle Club, of whom I was a founding member. And my wife Tina, who came along at just the right time in my life to bring a crazy kid to his senses. All is said and done, and I truly wish that I'd been born in 1970 rather than 1946. With the earnings that the racers make today, I'd be a millionaire. Oh, I'd honestly be able to say that I am 39 and be telling the truth. Thanks, everyone, for a wonderful evening, and thank you to the MCC for everything that they've done.